listening to Fresh Take.
You are listening to the Fresh Take Network.
You're listening to the Fresh Take Network.
What it is, what it do, welcome to Fresh Take. Joshua, Adam, William Arbuthnot, put on the board. It is the ISO, and hope everyone's had a wonderful summer with all the wonderful hoops that we've been having. Basketball doesn't stop. We're recording this on August 15th. The Alberta women have advanced to the finals. Shouts to them on the great run that they're having right now. We have so much talent right now in this province that we've had. And it's got me thinking that we don't really have a outlet for the players and the coaches to go on and talk weekly to update you on what went around in the leagues, in the ACAC, in the CCAA, in U Sport, in Canada West on a weekly basis. So starting immediately, put it on the board, will be coming in the summer. It'll vary a little bit here to bi-weekly to weekly, but as soon as we get into the thick of things with the season starting, we will have a weekly podcast recapping about everything that's happening in the CCAA, everything that's happening in Canada West and U Sport, everything that's happening in Calgary high school basketball, and we have some of the finest people that will be joining us. Other names will be determined, but She Plays YYC will be a part of this. Other great names. We'll be going to do media camps and having abilities to talk to coaches and players to talk about what their off seasons were and what they plan on the upcoming season. You can find that all here. I'll put on the board. We start August 24th. We head to Ambrose for an interview with Ambrose. We have an interview and a media day set up with St. Mary's, with the Trojans, the Dinos, a lot of exciting stuff and more coming up here. I'll put on the board to have those media availabilities, get to talk to the coaches and the players about all the things I talked about. And then as the season goes, for all of you, I'll have post-game interviews that I do after my call for the Lions, for the Dinos, for the Trojans, and so on. That will be exclusive here on Put It On The Board. We will also have interviews throughout the weekend, talking to coaches, previewing games of what they have coming. And again, that'll be all here on Put It On The Board to give you, the fans, a chance to have the outlet to dig deeper and to celebrate these athletes, but also to find some more out about the athletes, find out game plans, find out players' thoughts, coaches' thoughts, as we go into games, we come out of games, and everything in between. What we are striving here at Put It On The Board, and what I'm striving to do, is hit that next level of hoops accessibility for everyone in this province and in Western Canada and beyond, to really dig in and get the very best they can of players and coaches and everyone involved in this game that we love. So I'm happy to bring that to you here. I'll put it on the board. I'm happy for everyone that's going to be joining us. Like I said, we have other names that will be joining us on weekly pods. Those are going to be coming in the due time, but I figured right now I'd at least kind of let you all know what is in the works right now. And we have a great basketball community in Calgary. Shouts to the Surge. They're doing their thing. They just advanced the other day. Right now, you see I'm wearing a Calgary 88s hat. Shouts to Sea of the Dead. They've been repping the basketball community and the Calgary 88s logo for so long. So we have a lot of great basketball influencers in this city, basketball community going in this city. And I've been very proud to be a mini part of that, of being the voice of these colleges and these universities to amplify the game of basketball, to be part of the edge and see the youth coming up here and everything that they've been able to bring. And we have, as I was just talking about, we had the Alberta girls advance the other day, and Eddie Richardson and everything he's doing at the edge. We are so lucky right now with what we are seeing in Alberta, and I feel honored and privileged that I'll be able to come and share everything weekly now with you and talk about what the best things I saw from a game, what the best things happened for games that I wasn't able to go to, and so on and so forth. So I'm really excited to share all of that with everybody right here on Put It On The Board Hoops. We'll have links on the podcast all the time, so make sure you follow Put On The Board Hoops. Make sure you follow Fresh Take Network. And, if you want to, just follow this guy, Joshua Adam William Arbuthnot, on Jawa31 on IG and on X. And we have a lot of exciting things to come your way. All the content, weekly, interviews coming. I can't wait for it. Okay, so we got the business side out of the way. Let's go and talk about some of the exciting things that have happened over the summertime. Let's talk about the University of Calgary Dinos first, for example. And for the Dinos, Sarah Belsnick is the new coach in there. She comes from Ontario. She had a 5-year playing career for the GGs from 2013 to 19. And she comes in now for a new season here. And she gets to bring back some returning players. She gets to have Amelie Collin. She gets to have Polly Story, Sydney Milam, Courtney Oz. Everyone knows how much I've raved about Courtney Oz that have seen me do play-by-play. I think she is a defensive menace. And now with Amaya Proctor, who has graduated, shouts to Maya, a great player on this Dinos team and a leader. She has now moved on, and I think someone like Courtney Oz can step into a starting lineup or any position, maybe getting some more minutes now with Maya out, and she's going to absolutely rock and roll, have a really good chance for a Defensive Player of the Year in Canada West. Amelie Collin, also, I think she should have been a Defensive Player of the Year so many times over now, so I'm excited for that as well. Lilia Skumatova, just a three-point assassin. Look forward to seeing a little bit more of her. So I think it's going to be a really exciting season for the Women's Dinos, bringing in a new coach, bringing in some new exciting players to the team. Raya Hafez. We have Mackenzie Henderson. And we have Savin Kerman. If I butchered those pronunciations, forgive me. But I'm excited that we have some really exciting new talent coming in here. And the Women Dinos, they've been working hard this offseason. So I look forward to having the new coach in, getting to have an opportunity to talk to them soon about how the offseason's been with the new coach there. Shout out to Johnny Verone. Johnny Verone did a really good job as a first-year coach for this team last year and now has moved on to work for the Edge. So I'm really excited for him and everything he's going to be able to do with Eddie Richardson and all the fine people over at the Edge. Johnny did a tremendous job last year, and now bringing in Sarah here to the university, just a great prior career, and now I think she's going to bring a lot of fantastic and different things here to the university. So I'm really excited to see what she can do on the women's side for this team. I think they were so close last year, and you're bringing back Pollyanna Story, who dealt with a little bit of an injury at the beginning of the season, and I love everything we've seen from her, so I'm excited for that. Just on the schedule side, too, right now, the men's team is in the Bahamas. Well, they were in the Bahamas, and they just got back and faced some NCAA teams. Obviously, we'll have the Dinos Cup coming up here on October 10th to the 12th, and then the home opener will be against Fraser Valley on the 14th and the 15th. I will be on the call for that, so I'm very excited to be a part of that. Obviously, Nationals will be at the university this year. We have the Toronto Raptors will be making a visit to the Jack to do some of the practices, so that's going to be electrifying and really exciting to see the mix there and what, all the players have an opportunity to learn from a Scotty Barnes, from an RJ Barrett, from Brandon Ingram. So that will be really exciting to see what they can learn. As for the men, they added a lot of new players. One player that stands out to me that I got a chance to see at the Edge is Dennis Dollywall. He's going to be an absolutely electrifying player. They also brought in a fourth-year player in Hayden Franzen. They brought in DeAndre Francis from Toronto and a bunch of other players that we will get to as the season goes on. But they lost a lot of players. This is the team that Nate Petrone decided to move on to his pro side of his career and go to Germany. Noah hit his senior year. Dylan hit his senior year. They lost Declan Peterson, did the Dinos, which was a huge loss. He was a big, big asset to this Dinos team. But shouts to Declan Peterson, first and foremost, because this is the guy I had the privilege of seeing start off with Ryan Hagee's Lethbridge team in the CCAA and then in the ACAC. And then move on to be a Dino last year and get molded by Coach Van Horn and did a terrific job there and helped them win a Canada West championship. And then obviously had the injury that really hurt the Dinos in the championship run there. And then gets drafted to CBL and now has a chance. Now he's going down to NCAA. It's just been phenomenal to watch Declan's run here, and I feel really privileged that I got a chance to watch it from Lethbridge to the Dinos, and I wish him all the best. I'm upset. Like, it's a guy that you get to watch start in the ACAC, go into Canada West, and now go to the NCAA, and you're seeing more of that, and I love seeing that process that we're seeing now of players that are going to the ACAC for the first season and then going to Canada West and then going to NCAA, or players that are going from the NCAA to Canada West. The Dinos have some of those players, or players that are going from UBC did as well, and going from Canada West, maybe not liking your first year, going down to ACAC, refining your skills, and then going to another level. I think it's really, really rad what we've been able to see through the development these past few years. I started broadcasting at SAIT in 2012, so minus the COVID year, I've been at this now for about 13, 14 years, and it's been really cool to watch the growth of these athletes throughout the year. And I mean, getting to see what we're seeing now from the high school level, like I said, the Alberta girls, they've moved on to the championship, and we're starting to have such a great growth. And you're seeing, like what Eddie Richardson has been able to do for growth, and so many other talented scouts here in Alberta. That's what brings me a lot of passion now, and why I thought we needed more of a weekly podcast, because the growth of this game in Alberta is the highest I've ever seen it. I had the privilege to kind of watch a little bit of the recruiting process a few years ago, and my sister, who played at Churchill, ended up playing for Alberta, and then ended up getting recruited to play for the Pandas, and seeing a really good recruiting class that she had with that Churchill team, with Alex Cole, for example, that was a really talented player that went to UFC. And then my sister, who was also back and forth, a really talented guard with Nicole Clark at the time, and they ended up going to the University of Alberta, and kind of to see a talented crowd like that. And now, getting to watch the game and how advanced it is now for everyone to kind of see the display on social media of highlights, to have events like they do at the Edge, to have the alley-oop events. It really rises these talents. Canada Hoops, what they were able to do. So you get kind of a sneak preview of a lot of these athletes as far as the broadcaster side of me before they even get to Canada West or ACAC on my side. And by that time, you're already really knowing who they are. And I think the crazy thing for me this year, one of the most disheartening things for me this year, is specifically in the ACAC, there's a lot of players that have left, like Near Wall and Brooke Baker, obviously. That hurts me as, a Trojans broadcaster, because I got to see them for so many years. Though the girls, Kellogg on Mary's, seeing her move on, some of the men's players that we're not going to see anymore, not seeing a Marcus Masters, and not seeing a Jordan Bagar anymore, not seeing a Cooper Ward, who was one of my favorite players to watch whenever I got an opportunity. And then, the coaching tree goes round and round. I have to talk about Jeremy Relenga. Like, Jeremy, who was absolutely fantastic to me when they brought us up to Keano to call the ACAC championships a few years ago in Fort Mac. Just nothing but hospitable and fantastic. And getting to see him win that championship, getting them to finally beat the State Trojans after trying again, and then finally able to find that State Trojans win, and then finally getting to have that championship moment and feeling so happy for him. Because, when you start doing this, when I started doing this, I was, just SAIT. I would, and, for the first few years, you're a SAIT alum, you're proudly for SAIT, but I always had in my mind as a broadcaster to never have the bias opinion. Whenever I have any call, no matter who I am at their gym, and, during the collegiate season, it's mainly with the Trojans, Ambrose, and the Dinos. But the way I always look at it is someone on the other side is watching. So if, Ambrose is facing Lakeland, there is someone in Lakeland that is watching a family friend, their partner, grandson, granddaughter, whoever. And that's how they're watching this game. So I'm going to give that athlete the best call I can have. And I think that's the way it should be, because I had that experience when my sister played for the U of A, and she would be on the road. And she'd be at UBC or she'd be at Manitoba. And sometimes the broadcasters were a little biased. And I never really understood that, because the families that are watching are the ones that that are out of town, right? Some of your home team players are going to be home. And even if they're not, we, especially on the Dinos, we have a lot of foreign players, which is awesome. And those are the players I want to make sure I get the great call for them as well. And I think it's a good balancing act that you learn. But I think it's so important that you remember there's so many different people listening, and you want to make the right call for everybody. So kind of went on a little side mission there, but it's been really exciting to see some of those players that I did get to see. And, for this Dinos side of things, and the U Sport side of things, there's, players in the Pandas that I really enjoyed calling, and they're moving on, and around on other teams in Canada West, and getting to see Noah Wharton at the very beginning, and now he's gone. I got to see Nate Petrone have a season at MRU, and same with Dylan, and then they had the two fantastic seasons here with the University of Calgary. Now they've moved on, and it just becomes part of the business. But it's never easy. It's never easy, because you start adapting and get so used to calling these players. I mean, with the Trojans, when Charlie Connor, when they won the championship, and I was like, it kind of hit me for a second, like, that's the last time I'm ever going to call Charlie Connor. And it really set me back. Same with like an Alicia Tan, because these are players that, and Nicholas Molina, these are some of the players that they'd been there for 5 years. I'd been calling them for 5 years, and, had discussions with them during 5 years, and then to not see them play anymore, it's very weird. Garcia Bernal was another player, an away player that you're just so used to calling all the time, and then they're just gone. And you get used to it, seeing these certain players, like, oh, that's that person. Again, like with Med Hat, like I get excited for a Med Hat game because it'd be Cooper Ward, or I'd get excited for a Cano game because that would be Meach or whoever, right? Sean Michael Clancy. And I'd be excited because it's like, oh, I get to see Sean Michael Clancy. You circle the date because you get to see these exciting players. And it's like that in, Canada West as well, with so many of these great athletes. Like, I never got to call Diego Maffa. Ever. And that breaks my heart. Like, I never got to call Diego. And I had circled it, and I think they had a Dinos Cup. And I was like, I just wish I got to call this guy just once, because he was such an electrifying player. But then I feel also privileged that I got to call a guy that won all the awards in Nate Petrone. So sometimes you get certain players, sometimes you get the privilege of calling great athletes like a John Smith, like a Charlie Connor, like an Alicia Tan, and like a Nate Petrone. And you soak in those moments as well. And, when that schedule comes out, it gets me so excited, because this is what I went to college for. This is what I live for. The ability to call these athletes, to give those family and friends and significant others and partners that moment for them. That, like when Jordan Begar has a big dunk, for example, and we had that game at Ambrose. I was like, I'm going to make sure whoever's watching Jordan right now, I want to make sure that they know how important this moment is for Jordan. So when he puts the highlight up on his IG, they will know. When Cooper Ward does a fancy pass, I want people to know how exciting that is for Cooper Ward, so they can hear it all the way back home. Same with Charlie Connor, when they can hear it all the way back home in Washington. And, getting to talk to Dylan Lute's family, and them getting to say like how much they enjoyed me as a broadcaster. And that's really the biggest reward out of this all, is when the families do you get to talk to the families after, and they talk about appreciating your work. That's just icing on top of everything. That's really the highlight of everything. And that's why this time of the year I get so excited. And that's why with the podcast, that's been the thing I've been simmering on all summer, of how can we do more? because I love this. And we have the prep that goes in all week when we say, like, what are they going to be the talking points in this game? And there's more that we can do. And I know there's more we can do, and I want to be able to do that. Because there's so many great people in the fan side of the things, the family side of the things, and I'm really excited to be able to share that with everybody. It's been so good to my family, and it's been so good to me that I want to make sure I can give back to all these other families right now that are starting the journey with some of these freshmen that are starting this year. And I also think, as you're seeing the journey year to year go, the media side is becoming so much more important, and the athletes are getting interviewed more and more and more. So why not give them an easier platform to have the ability to talk about their off-season routine and the game that they had, or what they liked, what they didn't like, and same with these coaches as well. So that's the thing I'm really excited about with what we're going to be doing here. Like, this podcast tonight was, highlight a few things and talk about who's coming where, and I'm excited, for a lot of stuff like Afa. She's going to be the coach of Ambrose. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm really excited about that, and I think Ambrose on the men's side has a really exciting upside this year. And, with Ambrose, it's been, this will be my third year now broadcasting for Ambrose. And I've had a chance to work with some really excellent people there, with Larissa the first year. Now Ellery Platts has been there for 2 years, and they've been absolutely phenomenal to work with Ambrose and, get to see the rise of that school and how the coaching changes they've made now. And they had that big win against the Trojans last year. And before, I was just someone on the outside looking in on that when I was just at SAIT. And now getting to call games for them, and then you get the double of all the ACC things, right? And I think the most exciting thing still for me, though, was when you get to go to that U Sport level as well, and now you're seeing these athletes that are going to CBL, and now they're not just going from U Sport, they're going from the ACAC. So now you're getting to call these players, and you're getting to watch the draft, and like Sultan Hayter Body going first overall to Montreal, and I just called that guy in a playoff game. Like, I think at that point it was 2 months ago. I was like, that's pretty cool. So this broadcasting thing has given me a lot of cool stuff. And I think we have a lot of cool people that we have in this industry on the basketball side, that their stories are really cool. We did an interview earlier this summer with Nate Ruff and Abdel from Mary's, and those are just two outstanding guys. We have Matt Daly and SAIT, who's coaching Alberta right now, just an absolutely great guy. And there's more, right? Like, legends in this league like Ryan Hagee, and, the legends of legends right now with the Calgary Dinos, with Dan Van Horn. And, that's a guy that last year, you think about it, all the stats that we had last year for the University of Calgary. And, Nate having the absolutely electrifying run that he did and then becoming champions, all fantastic. It's still wild to me that Dan Van Horn is the most winningest coach in the history of the university. And you think about how long the University of Calgary has been around, and that is the most winningest coach in the history of the university. That's awesome. There was a lot of cool moments to be part of last year. That was one of my favorites I think I've had in my career. When it's all said and done, getting to interview Dan after and getting him to have that win was really, really cool. So, just take a breath in and enjoy it all, because it's an absolute privilege to be able to get in the headset and be able to broadcast to everyone. And for those that are listening to the podcast, it's been great. And as the summer's gone on, it's been unfortunate to not post as much stuff put on the board, but it was one of those situations too. You do enjoy your summer a little bit, but I think too of getting everything ready for what's to come. And we have a lot of exciting stuff to come that I'm really excited to have. And we have, just alone here in the next, coming months here in Calgary, right? We have 2 weeks of a fantastic tournament at the Edge, which might be my favorite event to be part of. We get to see the return of Jersey Robinson, who's one of the top ranked women in the world and is going to be an absolute standout prospect. She's going to be coming back to the Edge. If you weren't there last year for Jersey Robinson's appearance at the Edge, you missed out, because the kids on the Edge all lined up, chanting, rooting for their Edge school, and then Jersey having the back and forth with them. And that was absolutely electrifying, and getting to see so much of the young talent that we have, and getting to chop it up with the coaches from Cali, from New York. I can't remember the coach's name, but what was really cool for me is when Carl Anthony got traded to the Knicks, and getting to talk to the New York coach about, like, hey, what do you think about Towns getting traded, and kind of having that New York vibe on what they thought about Towns getting traded, having that ability right there was really, personally for me, just kind of rad there. And I've mentioned it, I'll mention it a million times. Eddie Richardson is just such a fantastic job at the Edge with everything that he's been able to set up there. And I'm excited to have Johnny Verone there. I had Cap there, and then Cap takes the Grant Mack job. So shouts to Cap again on getting that Grant Mack job. We've had so much turnover from all the coaches. Avery Harrison's not at Red Deer anymore. So that's going to be weird to not see Avery there anymore. Jeremy, took a step up at Keanu, and they brought in a new coach as well. So, Jeremy's going to a big position now. So shouts to Jeremy. I've talked about him and everything I appreciated about him. And then, for the Dinos, we have the Dinos Cup coming up here in 8 weeks or so from now. Starts second week of October. And then we have national championships here in Calgary, which is really, really exciting. And I think that, we went over some of the players that Dan has, and you hear, I haven't talked to Dan personally. I hope to get an opportunity to Dan, but you hear a lot of positive vibe about him really being happy with the guys that they have. And it's going to be really exciting to watch this run to the national championship for this Calgary team, defending the title. And they still have guys. You had guys that were playing for their countries, with Marty Sabliauskas, Daniels, Bamanas, both played for their countries this year. So they're going to bring back, and for Sabliauskas, I think he's going to do a great job coming back. Saran got injured last year. I really expect to jump up from him. Jackson came in and gave some great minutes defensively in the playoffs, and a guy like Aiden Smith coming back from an injury. I expect Aiden to hit another level as well. So they do have some returning vets on that Dinos men's team that I'm really excited to get an opportunity to see. Again, the privilege to call the reigning men's championship team of Canada West in the Dinos, and then the reigning ACAC women's champion in the State Trojans and Steve Schultz, and he's brought in another great crew there, and they brought back players like Kyler and Ava, who I thought, with Ava's case, I thought potentially should have been Defensive Player of the Year last year, because she's just an absolute ball hawk. And I'll keep on mentioning that. I think I don't get the vote on these things, but I do think, again, maybe some bias there, but I do think Ava deserved potentially to be the Defensive Player of the Year, because I didn't see many better defensive players at almost any level than what Ava Kerr was. And I said the same with Amelie Collin. I don't see many better defensive players than Amelie Collin on a weekly basis. Again, bias on my part, but it's going to be exciting. As I said, the next time we'll probably be back on here is around August 25th or 6th. On the 24th, we will be at Ambrose for Media Day, and really excited to chop it up with everyone there. We'll do some, live video here and there, but mainly the best way to find everything will be on the Put It On The Board YouTube and on the Instagram. We'll work on getting a TikTok and see how well that does, and we'll put out some Q&A stuff that people can ask certain players that they want to ask and whatnot. And yeah, I look forward to what we're going to be able to do going into the season. It's really exciting. It's a really exciting season ahead here. I'm excited to be on the mic for it. I feel privileged as I've gone on and on in this, to have the ability to do that. And yeah, we have some exciting basketball ahead of us. Thanks everyone for listening, and until next time, folks, cheers.
Thank you for listening to the Fresh Take Network. Follow us on social media platforms at Fresh Take 42.